One thing that I always have to remember, especially when doing pattern training type stuff, is it doesn't teach you how to play chess. Doing pattern training does not do that. You still have to know how the pieces move. If you understand what the purpose of each of the pieces is, and then their relation to everything else on the board within their own team, how they can operate against the opponent, what squares they can manage, what pieces they can support, what can be sacrificed, understanding the mechanics of the game of chess, then you're going to be more rounded if you're doing that. If you're relying purely on tactical type stuff, like pattern training type stuff, it's not going to give you the full benefit of the chess knowledge and the chess experience. You do have to know the basics of chess. You have to know what the pieces can do, what their relationship is within any game that you're playing, because you have to understand how you open, how you start the game. So it might not be that, you know, you go learning all the fancy names, but you have to understand yourself how you are starting your game of chess and how you're safely mobilizing your pieces in order to feel safe with your starting point. And then when you're transferring into, say, the mid game, or if you're lucky enough to have found a type of end game from the start because the opponent's messed up somewhere, then at least you're understanding what it is that the pieces can do in relation to what is actually happening on the board. So it's a key factor to really understand. Pattern training is not the be all and end all for your chess. It's a supporting tool to help you recognize any potential better moves, if you like, but the games really aren't yours. But you can do pattern training with your games as well, which might be of more benefit to yourself in terms of, well, yes, you did end up in that position, so how then can you better improve it? So a good way of doing that is, if you've played quite a lot of games, if you've played hundreds of games and you've got them all logged on, say, one of the chess sites, then basically go back. Don't look at it, but just go back right from the beginning, because then you're not going to remember, you know, what you did. And then from there, put it into a puzzle type format for yourself. However you do that, just put it into a puzzle format for yourself. You can find out how to do that online or wherever, or you can just basically get the coordinates down, stick them into, say, something like Lichess or the other site, chess.com or whatever. I don't know if chess.com does it or not, but you could put it in the analysis tool, and from there basically you can create your own pattern recognition type thing. I'll show you what I mean. So if you select the games that you've lost, so if you click the tab that's got the losses, so that brings all your losses up. So you can scroll down, and I like to go all the way back, way back, you know, but obviously for this video we won't go way back, but go as far back as you can, so then you're not remembering what actually happened. And just click on one, and analysis. If there's no report analysis on it, just click on the report analysis. It might take a while depending on the volume of traffic on the server type thing. Once it comes up, so it's finished here, just click on learn from your mistakes. You may have seen this already, but you know, it's just nice to be reiterated again. And it will show you initially the movement that you made, which is this rook move here. So you're not going to do that move. It's saying that that move, there was a better move. If you want to view the solution, then you can click here, and you can skip this move if you want to, if it's too difficult or if it's too easy. Then you do your pattern work and see which move was realistically the better move. And it can be quite hard, especially because it's your game and you would have done your own assessment. I would have done my assessment thinking, yeah, I'm bringing this rook here and I'm looking to get this rook here to actually attack this pawn. I can picture myself thinking like that. But what he does have is he's got a 2-on-1 on this pawn here. So shouldn't we be thinking about defending that pawn first? Maybe with a rook just coming here, supporting, rather than losing a pawn. Maybe, I don't know. Let's just bring the rook here. And that was a good move. So even now, just looking back on it, yeah, I can see quite openly that that was an error. That was a mistake, thinking like that. So it goes on to the next one to see if there's something else. So we went and did this knight move. So we need to knock that one on the head. It's saying that was not the best move. What was the best move? That's what we need to search on. So that was a weakness because the bishop can move, can't it? It's not under threat. It's not forced to stay there. And the knight's got no support. Does weaken this pawn a little bit as well. So what could we do better? The rook could go and attack the bishop. And then we would have this rook thing that we were thinking about earlier on in the game. And we would be pressuring this pawn. So it does give them a few things to think about. Because if we did bring the rook here, then does the rook come and defend? The bishop doesn't need to stay there. It can move. It's got freedom. I'd expect it to probably come here and attack the knight or something like that. So is that a good one? Well, it's a move. It's a move which is still trying to finalize the attack on here. Again, the bishop can defend that pawn by coming here. So is it realistically a good move? Is there a better move than that? This pawn is under attack at the minute, but it does triple our pawns. Bishop does take, and we've still got the double pawns here. Do we hit this pawn? Seeing whether or not they're going to capture, and then it kind of brings our pawns into a bit more linkage. Looks a bit risky though, doesn't it? Because it doesn't have to take. Rook could come and attack. Suppose we can take and take there, splits their pawns up. Bit uglified though, because they can come down and attack our pawn. Knight's defending. Bit tricky, but maybe it is something to do with this pawn rather than the rook attacking the bishop. Although it's growing on me doing this rook move even more, because then they have to do something, but like we said, they can just come here. And we're going to be wasting our time doubling the rooks because the pawn is just defended. If it does go there, rook can come here and attack it, but it can get to safety here. There are elements of the knight jumping here and getting this rook here and still hitting the pawn type thing, getting the rook up here, 3 on there, but that looks a little bit long-winded. So which is the better move out of all them? Is it taking? No. Is it pushing the pawn? Takes, rook comes to attack, pawn defends. That looks nice for the pawn structure for that. Personally. Don't know if it's that, but we will try it. It doesn't like that, so it's not that one. We rationalized it thinking we're going to get a nicer position. So we've then obviously going to hit the bishop. So out of the two, this was the best one. But we did rationalize this one. But it obviously wasn't too forcing because they didn't have to take. Yeah, okay. Yeah, go with simple. I mean, they can bring the bishop here, like we said. But it's obviously saying that is the better one. It gives them something to think about. Suppose the knight can jump here, back in the pawn. And then we can get tripled up on there, potentially. So yeah, stick with that one. That was a little bit clearer. This one was maybe a bit too risque. Still okay with it, but maybe we lose out somewhere with the rook coming here and stuff. Alright, so we're going to the next one. So there's quite a few in this one game. So this one game is giving us lots of pattern training, pattern recognition type stuff in our own game. And that's, to me, a better way of improving your game, by actually focusing on your weaknesses and taking it a little bit further. So this is a really good tool to utilize for your personal pattern training. I like to do this quite a bit, and it's frustrating because you still fall into the realms of your natural playing style, but it does help along the way. When I'm playing other people's pattern stuff, that's where I really do struggle. But it's nice to just jump out of there as well and practice. As we've done this week, we've done quite a lot of we've had a bad experience in the first batch of the pattern training, and then in the second batch it was really good. We learned from everything. We could see what was happening, the mistakes that we'd made, we could learn from them. The first batch, we just weren't learning from them at all. We just didn't see the reasoning behind the moves, even when we've made them wrong, and then we've gone back and we've looked at the solution. Still didn't really understand it. I was challenging them to the hilt, saying, well, you can do that, you know, it's not a weak move. But in the second batch, still challenged, and I think there were one very key game, and there were two other games where I challenged and the computer fought back and educated me. Well, I educated myself because I actually saw what it was saying and I understood what it was saying this time. So that second batch was a really good session on pattern recognition for other people's games. But definitely doing pattern recognition for your own games is key, almost to the point of negating doing pattern recognition of other people's games. I would put this as your #1 staple diet if you're doing pattern training. It doesn't have to be on Lichess, it can be whatever system provides you with this type of tooling. You should utilize it as best possible. If you don't have any toolings at all, basically just go through the game right from the start and just find out yourself where you think things went wrong and what you could do better in the game.